All right, we have a question here. Question one. It says the following table of data represents a business in operation. Right? We've been given information here. The output, the total revenue, the total costs, the average revenue. Remember, average revenue is the revenue each unit brings. Okay, the revenue each unit brings. Okay, whenever you hear average, just think per unit. Okay, so this is so you can think of it as a revenue per unit. Okay, yes. Then we've also got the marginal revenue. Marginal revenue and say this is the additional revenue you get when you sell an extra unit. All right, that is marginal revenue. All right, then we have profit here, then marginal cost. Marginal cost, this is the additional cost you incur when you produce an extra unit. Okay, so marginal cost, extra cost per unit, marginal revenue, extra revenue per unit, and then we have our average cost. Okay, the cost per unit, average cost per unit. So we need to tabulate these values. So let us go to Excel. All right. So we're going to start with average revenue. So the formula for average revenue, AR, equals total revenue, TR, over quantity. All right. So we're going to be dividing our total revenue by the output. All right. So when our output is 0, total revenue is 0. So our average revenue is 0. All right. When we produce 1 unit, total revenue is 100. So total revenue divided by output, average revenue is 100. When we produce 2 units, total revenue is 180 divided by 2 units. So each unit is bringing 90 kwacha. When we produce 3 units, the total revenue is 240 kwacha. So the revenue per unit, 80 kwacha. When we produce 4 units, okay, the total revenue is 280, output 4 units. All right. When we produce 5 units, the total revenue is 300. So the revenue per unit is 60. All right. When we produce 6 units, the total revenue is 300. So the revenue per unit is going to be 50. Okay. When we produce 7 units, total revenue 280. Our average revenue 40 kwacha. When we produce 8 units, the total revenue is 240. Average revenue 30 kwacha. Okay. Yes, that's how we get our average revenue, right? Always remember this formula. Average revenue is a total revenue over output. Okay. Yes. Next, we need to get our marginal revenue. All right? So remember marginal revenue, okay? Change in total revenue. So you say TR new minus TR old. So the new revenue minus the old revenue divided by the new quantity minus the old quantity. Okay, so that's the formula for marginal revenue. Change in total revenue over change in quantity. All right. So when we produce 0 units, there is no marginal revenue. Okay, so you never have a marginal revenue when you produce 0 units. Then I also want you to notice something. Okay, our output is increasing by units of 1. Okay, so it means our denominator in this formula, okay, this denominator is always going to be 1. So all you need to do in this table is just subtract the new total revenue minus the old. All right. Yes. So when we produce 1 unit, okay, our new total revenue is 100 minus our old total revenue 0. So the marginal revenue is 100, meaning this unit is bringing in an extra 100 kwacha into the company. All right. In the denominator, it was 1 minus 0, and that is 1. Okay. So 100 divided by 1, that is 100. When we produce 2 units, all right, our total revenue increased from 100 to 180. So we're going to say 180 minus the old total revenue 100, it is 8. So it means this second unit brought an extra 80 kwacha into the business. When we produce 3 units, okay, new total revenue 240 minus old total revenue 180, 60. This third unit has brought an extra 60 kwacha into the business, right? When we produce 4 units, okay, the new total revenue 280 minus the old total revenue 240, we get 40. When you produce 5 units, okay, it's the new total revenue minus the old total revenue. So this fifth unit has brought an extra 20 kwacha into the business. When we produce 6 units, new total revenue 300 minus old total revenue 300. This 6 unit doesn't bring any extra revenue. Okay. When we produce the 7th unit, new total revenue 280 minus old total revenue 300, negative 20. Okay. So this is now bringing in losses because the revenue is now negative. Okay. When we bring in the 8th unit, new total revenue 240 minus old total revenue 280, negative 40. All right, this is how we get our marginal revenue. Okay, next is our profit. Remember profit, the formula for profit, P equals total revenue minus total cost. Okay. So when we produce 0 units, total revenue 0 minus total cost 20, we're making a loss. Okay. Yes. And I want you to notice something, colleagues. If the question asked for, let's say, average fixed cost, right, or the fixed costs, just know the fixed cost here is 20 kwacha. Why? Because fixed costs, they're not dependent on how much you produce. So even though you produce 0 units, you still incur that cost, like the factory rent. If you don't produce anything that month, all right, you still have to pay the factory rent, all right? So if they ask us for the fixed cost or average fixed costs, If they ask us for the fixed cost specifically, you just know the fixed cost is 20 kwacha because it's being incurred when it's zero. Okay, because sometimes examiners use that trick, right? They want to tell you what the fixed cost in the question is, but for you to determine what is the fixed cost in the question, look at the cost that is incurred when output is zero. Okay, when we produce 1 unit, total revenue 100 minus total cost 60, we make a profit of 40 kwacha. When we produce 2 units, total revenue 180, total cost 110, profit 70 kwacha. When we produce 3 units, total revenue 240 minus total cost 170, 70. When we produce 4 units, total revenue 280 minus total cost 240 becomes 40. When we produce 5 units, total revenue 300, total cost 320, we are making a loss of 20 kwacha. When we produce 6 units, our revenue is 300 kwacha, but our cost is 410 kwacha. We're making a loss of 110 kwacha. When we produce 7 units, total revenue 280 minus total cost 510, negative 230. Okay, when we produce 8 units, total revenue 240 minus total cost 620, making a loss of 380 kwacha. Okay, next is our marginal cost. So marginal cost is the change in total cost. So we say TC new, change in total cost, TC new minus TC old over the change in output, Q new minus Q old. Okay. So as I said, since the output is increasing in units of 1, so it means our denominator here is going to be 1. Okay. So you can just subtract the total costs. Okay, to get your margin. So when we produce 0 units, there is no marginal cost. Okay. When we produce 1 unit, our total cost rises from 20 kwacha to 60 kwacha. So the additional cost brought by this 1 unit is 40 kwacha. Right. When we produce 2 units, total cost rises from 60 to 110 kwacha. So 110 minus 60, 50 kwacha. So this second unit has brought an extra cost of 50 kwacha. When we produce 3 units, our total cost increases from 110 to 170. So you say 170 new total cost minus 110 old total cost, 60. When we produce 4 units, total cost rises from 170 to 240. So the new total cost 240 minus the old total cost 170. When we produce 5 units, our total cost is rising from 320, rising from 240 to 320. So the new total cost is 320, old total cost 240. Okay. When we produce 6 units, new total cost 410, old total cost 320. So this 6th unit is bringing an additional 90 kwacha cost. When we produce 7 units, our total cost, new total cost is 510 minus old total cost 410. Then when we produce 8 units, our new total cost 620 minus old total cost 510, that is 110. All right. Yes. Then finally, our average cost, AC. Average cost, the cost per unit, It's your total cost divided by the quantity. Right. So anytime you hear the word average, just know in the formula your denominator is quantity. So it's average cost, total cost over quantity. Average revenue, total revenue over quantity. If they say average fixed cost, AFC, then it's your total fixed costs over quantity. Okay, that's how you remember this formula. All right, so when we produce 0 units, total cost 20, output 0, so the average cost is 0. Okay, the cost per unit is 0. When we produce 1 unit, our total cost is 60 divided by 1 unit, 60 kwacha. The cost per unit is 60 kwacha. When we produce 2 units, total cost 110 divided by 2 units. The average cost or the cost per unit 55 kwacha. When we produce 3 units, total cost 170 divided by output 3, 56.667. When we produce 4 units, total cost 240 divided by output 4, 60. Okay, so that's what is happening here. We're just dividing our total costs by, wait, these values don't look correct. Let me put it here. Yes, total cost by quantity. Okay, when we produce 5 units, total cost 320 divided by 5, 64. When we produce 6 units, total cost 410 divided by 6 units, 68.33. When we produce 7 units, total cost 510 divided by 7, 72. When we produce 8 units, total cost 620 divided by 8 units, cost per unit is 77.5. Yes. So this is how you do this table here. Okay. So we're going to look at the next part of the question. Okay. For the plotting of the graph, I'll send the graph, okay, in the notes. We'll look at part 3, which says determine the profit maximizing output and confirm that at this output, marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So colleagues, remember this. This point where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, this is the point of profit maximization. When marginal cost equals marginal revenue, that's the output you need to produce to get your maximum profit. So if we look on our table here, all right, let's see, our marginal revenue column is here. Marginal cost column is here. Okay, let's see. All right, so if you notice, at 3 units, all right, at 3 units, our marginal revenue is 60 and our marginal cost is also 60. And notice the profit is 70. 70 is the highest profit here, if you notice, okay? The profit is 70. All right, so yes, so this firm should produce 3 units. That's when they're going to maximize profit. All right, if they produce over 3 units, as you can see, the profit starts to drop. If they produce less than 3 units, here, okay, at 2 units, they're still getting maximum profit. But if they produce 1 unit, their profit will be low. All right. So the key here, colleagues, is The point of profit maximization is where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Then for the graph, all right, just remember this. Since all these values, total revenue, total cost, average revenue, marginal revenue, profit, marginal cost, and average cost, they're all monetary. So they'll be all be on the y-axis. Okay, all of these are going to be on the y-axis. Then your output is going to be on the x-axis. All right, output is going to be on the x-axis, and then total revenue, total cost, average revenue, all of these will be on the y-axis. All right, yes, you can see my graph here. Output is on the x-axis. All right, then these are your costs. Okay, you can see the total costs are rising the more we produce. All right, total revenue, as you can see, total revenue is here, it's rising, then it starts to drop. All right, profit, all right. Oh, yes, so basically, as I said, I'm going to, in the notes, I'm going to make this graph look better, and then you'll be able to interpret it. But just remember, in the exam, because you won't have Excel, your quantity should be on the x-axis, then all these marginal cost revenues and everything will be on the y-axis. Okay, you just plot one graph at a time, one graph at a time. Okay, yes.